pyruvate, you do release CO2. That is correct. In this case, in ethanol fermentation, you do make CO2. In lactic acid fermentation, you don't do that. Now, these have economic use, so alcohol fermentation by yeast used commercially in alcoholic beverages, in rising dough for bread production, all of that, anything that uses yeast for fermentation. And yeast can switch between aerobic respiration and fermentation depending on O2 concentration. Lactic acid fermentation by bacteria and fungi are used in cheese and yogurt manufacture, for example, and also your muscle cells can revert to lactic acid fermentation if O2 concentration is not high enough. So if you're exercising really intensely and your breathing is not keeping up with the O2 demand for your muscles can actually switch to fermentation. I'm sorry? I don't know what happens to the lactic acid removal. The only thing I can tell you is that the thought that lactic acid is the reason your muscles become sore is actually incorrect. It's the iron imbalances that cause that. So lactic acid has been shown not to be the reason for the soreness of the muscles. That came out a few years ago. Alright, yes?
Is the iron imbalance caused by the lactic acid?
It's not binding to lactic acid. So lactic acid doesn't seem to have any connection to why your muscles get sore. But your muscles do get sore for other reasons. Alright, we are not going to spend any time on anaerobic respiration. You should just be aware that there are organisms that use electron transport but have a final electron acceptor other than oxygen. Sir, you cannot block the staircase. You're going to have to move. Sir, you cannot block the staircase. You're going to have to move. Alright, so I do want to spend a couple of minutes reviewing respiration before we see if you have any time for photosynthesis. You may or may not. So I want to remind you that you do have a review in your lab manual, the respiration song, which does review everything needed in respiration and fermentation. Now this is when I feel really old because this is to a Beatles tune, which of course I know, and most of you don't know, which makes me feel really old. But some of you might know. You are going to sing with me, don't worry. Actually, one of my students, several years ago, put this a PowerPoint presentation together which walks you through the song with figures. So we will all sing. So let's warm up. La, 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 la. I can put that on Blackboard, yes. I have to check to see if I think they gave us this, the person who put this together gave us the source of the figure, so I think I can. Alright, so, you all know the tune, right?
Yeah, sure. Maybe.
Alright, so sing. Glucose oxidation has a lot of steps. Most of which you do not need to know. Come on. 5 major parts are critical. Hold on tight. And listen closely because this is how it goes. What goes in, what comes out, don't get bogged down. No breathing. Ah, not so bad. Pyruvate enters the mitochondria. From cytosol just got made. Multi-enzyme complex chunks of CO2 yields NADH and acetyl-CoA. So this is pyruvate oxidation. So first step, the first place you get CO2 is by cutting off one carbon from pyruvate, and then you get your acetyl-CoA. So now you can do the refrain. It would help if you actually sang at the same time. So breathe in. Stephen Lowe enters the Krebs cycle. Adds 2 carbons, now you have got 6. It loses CO2s and ADHs, form FADH2 and ATP for kicks. Well, before we get to the refrain, so this is where you get 2 carbons added. So you have a 4-carbon compound plus 2 carbons, you get your 6-carbon compound. The rest of the cycle is to harvest some energy in the forms of NADH and FADH2 and some energy in the form of ATP, and then you recycle the oxalic acid here, oxaloacetic acid, so that you can then take the next acetyl-CoA. So now you can do the refrain. What goes in?
What comes out? So
Alright, don't quit your day jobs. NADH with high energy electrons do the electron transport chain. As they go to O2 making H2O, protons are pumped across the inner membrane. So the whole point of electron transport is to move these protons to the inner membrane space and to remove them from the matrix. And the synthesis of the reduction of oxygen to water also removes protons from the matrix, and that helps establish the proton gradient. What goes in? Down, it will make your head spin around. Alright, now you have got a gradient of protons. They want to go back to the matrix. ATP synthase lets them take their energy, makes ATP one of nature's greatest tricks. So now the proton gradient allows the movement of the protons back through the ATP synthase. Energy is used to make ATP, so energy releasing, exergonic, energy requiring, endergonic. Now this is where the true Beatle fans know the tune changes. Alright, so who actually knows the song? Alright, so do you know how the tune changes here? Stage fright. This is where they can go something like, in a couple of years they have built a home sweet home. Right. So there's much support for chemiosmosis that comes from compounds such as dinitrophenol that can act as uncouplers too. So this is where you look at uncouplers. So you're back to the regular tune now. So what do uncouplers do? They make the membrane leaky, there's no gradient. Phosphorylation is then blocked. But glucose oxidation keeps coming strong, and the secret to the coupling is unlocked. So you're now removing the proton gradient, uncoupling it from ATP synthesis. So if dinitrophenol allows the protons to go back through the membrane, then there is no proton gradient to make ATP. ATP production drops significantly. So that was one of the first indications that the proton gradient actually had something to do with ATP synthesis, was the action of these uncouplers. Alright, last verse here. Oxidative phosphorylation is one of evolution's biggest screws. It makes 90% of your ATP, so without it in a few minutes you're through. What goes in, what comes out, don't fall down. It'll make your head spin around.
So breathe in, then breathe out.
Respiration keeps you around. Got that all down. Respiration keeps you around. Alright, folks. Where are you going? You're not done. Alright, so we won't start for the synthesis today. We will start it next Wednesday.